What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, I had to make this follow-up video. I initially broke this news, one of the first people on YouTube to talk about Danny Garcia and Rod Salka and that bullshit of a fight. And I talked about it, kind of pressed for time. I was heading out, and I'm just now getting a chance to revisit this topic. Plus, I did it on a video, The Rundown, where I talked about other things. Now, I want to dedicate this entire video to the subject of Danny Garcia and his upcoming opponent, August 9th. So I really got to just break it down, unadulterated, no filter, like Eddie Murphy. Got to give it to you raw and give my honest thoughts. Some people aren't going to agree with me, but I've been giving it to people all day. A lot of people agree with me, but there are a couple people who are coming to bat for Danny Garcia and trying to justify this shit fest of a fight. And no, like I've looked at it, I've interpreted it. Like I'm not. Some of you guys won't like to admit this, but I'm not a biased person. Like I give people credit when I've been wrong on predictions. Whatever the situation with, if they turn me into believers, then it is what it is. And if you check my track record with Danny Garcia, I've been supporting the dude when a lot of you guys said he had no shot in hell. In the Eric Morales rematch, you said the first one was a fluke. I told you he would win. Amir Khan, he was the underdog in that fight. I predicted him to win. In the fight with Zab Judah, some of you guys were telling me, even Vids06, not to call him out, shout out to Vids06, he told me Zab was going to get in that ass. And there was a lot of people. They said stylistically it's a horrible matchup for Danny Garcia. And I said, yeah, but he mentally breaks down. Danny Garcia has showed tenacity. And I did my prediction video, predicted Danny Garcia to win. And he did. And then you move to the Lucas Matisse fight. A lot of y'all were on my channel screaming. I was like, this is a 50-50 fight. It's a good fight on the Mayweather undercard with Canelo. And y'all were screaming that Lucas Matisse was going to take his head off and Angel Garcia was going to have to cut off his head like he said and all this shit. And I picked Danny Garcia in that fight. A lot of you guys said I was stupid, didn't know shit about boxing. He won that fight. Even the Mauricio Herrera, I predicted him to win that fight. I told you Mauricio Herrera is tricky and crafty, but I thought he would pull out the win, and he did. But I don't like to admit those type of predictions because even though I was right, I said it would go to a decision because Mauricio Herrera's game and he's tough and he's slippery. But I don't even like being right in those predictions because I feel what happened that night wasn't genuine. I don't think he truly should have won that particular fight. And since then, I've interviewed Mauricio Herrera. We talked about it. He gave me his side of the view, his point of view, and we both agreed that Danny Garcia didn't win that fight. He was gifted that decision because he was expected to win. It was the hometown Puerto Rico event and all that, so they had been probably swayed. So fast forward to the future, he's fighting Rod Salka, who a lot of you guys, some of you guys were admitting like, oh, this is a good fight. He needs it. I put together this picture. Please tell me. It's a multiple choice. Which one of these is Danny Garcia's next opponent? Don't cheat. Don't go to Google. Just tell me, and I want to see how many of you guys get this right. Which one is his opponent? Who is Rod Salka out this motherfucker? Out of A, B, C, or D? Which one is he? And really test yourself. Don't go cheat and Google it. Anybody can Google and try to figure out who it is. But how many of you guys got the answer right and picked the right, correct answer? Exactly. So that just lets you know this dude has no type of boxing credibility. Personally, I would have rather seen Danny Garcia fight anybody else. Like if it has a name, Kareem Mayfield coming off a loss to Thomas Delorme. I would have rather seen that. Chris Algieri, Ruslan Provodnikov lost to Chris Algieri. I would have rather seen Algieri or Ruslan versus Danny Garcia. You got Lamont Peterson on the same card, but not fighting Danny Garcia. I would rather see him fight a guy coming up in weight, like a Omar Figueroa Jr., than to see the opponent Rod Salka. To me, that fight makes no fucking sense. There's other guys at 140 who have kind of earned their shot, rebuilt their careers. Guys like Hank Lundy, why can't he get that opportunity? I would rather even see a fucking Alous again at Jose. He's been beat by Lucas Matisse and he got beat by Hank Lundy. Put him in there with Danny Garcia. So some of you guys are arguing that he needs a tune up. And this is where, like, I hate doing this to you guys because I like you guys, but this is where I have to shit on some of y'all and your arguments. So some of the arguments, some of the people who are okay with this fight, you're telling me he needs a tune up fight after a tough fight with Mauricio Herrera. He needs to get his confidence back. But guess what? Danny Garcia and his father, well, we'll use Danny Garcia, but his father said this too. There's interviews where Danny Garcia said that he believes he beat Mauricio Herrera by either 7 or 8 rounds. He says he feels he pretty much dominated. He's not giving the rematch. There's no point. And he feels he convincingly beat Mauricio Herrera. So, with that being said, why does he have to get his confidence back if he firmly believes that he beat somebody 7 or 8 rounds in that fight? That makes no sense. Where's your confidence? Why is it shot? Why is it gone? Why is it lost? If you firmly and sincerely believe you beat Mauricio Herrera, that shit don't even make sense. Like, what do you have to prove if you beat him? That's like Demetrius Andre beat Brian Rose without a shadow of a doubt. So does he need to grant a rematch or take a tune-up fight his next fight? No. You know why? Because he beat the shit out of his opponent and it wasn't even really competitive. So he lost nothing in that fight in terms of confidence or esteem or anything like that. So that lets me know right there that Team Garcia doesn't believe, despite what they said in the public, they don't believe they beat Mauricio Herrera, and now they want to go back to the drawing board. And I'm okay with that. If you want to take a softer touch opponent, just like after the Lucas Matisse fight, Danny Garcia had a pretty tough schedule leading up to that. Zab Judah's a veteran fighting Lucas Matisse, who was interim belt holder, Amir Khan. I mean, he had a tough schedule. So when he fought Mauricio Herrera, even though Mauricio Herrera was coming off of a loss, or had lost to Kareem Mayfield, and Mayfield at the time was undefeated and didn't get the shot, I was like, okay, he's had a tough schedule. This is a tune-up fight. He deserves a break. I had no problem with the Herrera. I mean, I wanted to see other fights, but I was like, okay, I understand. He has to give himself an easier fight, a homecoming Puerto Rico fight. But then your tune-up fight ended up being the fight of your life and being tough. And I think you lost it along with a lot of other people. Now, all of a sudden, we're doing a second tune-up fight. Now, this is where we start to get into some of the problems. A second tune-up fight, and you're the lineal champion. I don't want to hear it. I already used this example in the first video, in the rundown video. Sergio Martinez had a very similar situation. He had a sketch performance against Martin Murray. He got knocked down, in my opinion, twice, even though the referee only counted one of them. In my opinion, he got knocked down twice. Arguably lost that fight to Martin Murray. I think he, after watching it the second time, I think he did lose to Martin Murray. It was close. Martin Murray had a slow start, but arguably lost to Martin Murray. He re-aggravated some of his existing injuries, like his knee and shit, and I think he fractured his hand or some shit. Took a year layoff, a little bit over a year, was on crutches for some odd months, and came back and fought a fucking guaranteed Hall of Famer in Miguel Cotto. Even though Cotto was coming up in weight, he still did it. Plus, not to mention, Sergio's pushing 40 years old. So, a guy like Danny Garcia, who believes he beat Mauricio Herrera based on what he said in interviews post-fight, you won on the scorecards. You say you feel you won and you believe you won, and you're taking this soft of a touch opponent. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Why are you taking such a soft touch opponent? Like I said, use the Sergio Martinez model. And this is a guy who had injuries, who's coming off of injuries, a year layoff, and he was still man enough, he was still prideful enough as lineal champion to go in against a guaranteed Hall of Famer like Miguel Cotto. Now, I'm not saying Danny Garcia had to do that and immediately off of a tough fight with Herrera go in and face Pacquiao, but why not fight some of the other guys? Hank Lundy, y'all are both from Philly. You've sparred before. I talked to Hank Lundy. Make that fight. He lost to John Molina. He's been rebuilding his career. Fight him. Chris Algieri, he had a tough bumpy road with Ruslan Provodnikov, fight him. Ruslan just lost. Kareem Mayfield just lost. Fight one of them. They're off losses. Why can't you fight one of those guys? They're off losses. It just doesn't make sense. Even at the very least, like I said, fight somebody with a decent, respectable resume and name. God, like a Jose, a loose again to Jose. He lost his biggest step up fights, but he was undefeated for some time. Why not fight? Now here's another argument that I gotta shut down on a lot of you guys. You guys are saying stuff like I threw out some names that I think he could have fought. And I said Kareem Mayfield as one of them. And they said Kareem Mayfield doesn't deserve the opportunity, or he hasn't put himself in a position to get that opportunity. But Rod Salka has. He's one fight removed from a loss, and he's ranked number 77 with 3 knockouts in his entire pro career and almost 20 fights. Like, come on, how Kareem Mayfield is one fight removed from being undefeated. He just lost to Thomas Delorme. Fight Delorme. Any of these fights, like I said, any of these fights make a lot more sense. Lamont Peterson is a unification bout. Just so many fights that make a lot more sense. And again, just to dispel the rumor of he needs to build his confidence, why? He said he won. He said he convincingly beat Mauricio Herrera. Why does he have to rebuild? And again, even if you are going to rebuild, why do you have to go to the bottom of the barrel in terms of opponents? Like Golden Boy, Al Heyman, y'all not going to just put together whatever shit fest of a card, put together some pure garbage, and just because you put it at a new venue, state-of-the-art venue like the Barclays, expect that shit to sell. I think it'll do pretty bad ratings, to be honest, and pretty bad numbers in the Barclays, because you have star power, but a lot of that star power is being pitted against the wrong competition. Like I said, I just listed several fighters, Ruslan to Chris Algieri, Hank Lundy, Kareem Mayfield, Thomas Delorme. The division 140, 147, these are stacked divisions. Lucas Matisse, John Molina. And I talked to these guys, and I want to give you some of the things that they said when I talked to them. I talked to a bunch of guys today. Kareem Mayfield put this: come on, now that I got an L and I'm a free agent, you would think that they would give me a shot. But like his pop said, you'll never get a shot. Wow, a lightweight ranked number 77 though. Not good for boxing. So that's coming from Kareem Mayfield when we talk. Then I talked to Hank Lundy, asked him about Danny Garcia and Rod Salka, what he thought. This is what Hank Lundy told me. I'm going to keep it 100. That's some bullshit shaking my damn head. They do what they do, and I do what I do. I love the way I came up. Fight anyone, anytime, the hood way. 100. So that's Hank Lundy. And he's from Philly too. So he has no reason to disrespect or just pure. Like, you can say if you want, even though it's not the case, you can be like, oh, Kareem Mayfield and Ego, they're both from the Bay and they're just hating on somebody. Even though I've never hated on Danny Garcia. John Molina Jr., this is what he had to say when asked. He said, bad fights, good fights, doesn't matter, no, but I'll tune in because it's my division. But when Garcia and Peterson are done playing, I'll be waiting. So he's game. He wants to fight either one of them. He wants to fight Adrian Broner, he told me. So that's some other viewpoints other than my own from the 140-pound division. And it doesn't really feel like anybody's on board. So just cut the shit out. It's a bad fight. It's a bad card. You have some talent. But like I said, I would give Danny Garcia credit if he fought Thierry Jean, who lost his last fight to Lamont Peterson, over Rod Salka. Again, this is a guy we don't know. He doesn't really have the pop. He doesn't, like, what is he going to bring that is going to lead the fans to believe it's going to be a competitive fight? It's going to trouble him. You know what I'm saying? Like Mauricio Herrera, he's not a magnificent puncher, but we all knew he was crafty. And he has a name, and he had been in there with Kareem Mayfield. He had been in there with Ruslan Provodnikov. Tell me who Rod Salka's been in there with. Y'all can't even name him in the police lineup that I did. So I'm done with it. I think it's a shit fest. As a boxing fan, I watch all fights pretty much as long as I'm home. good or bad, big or small, I watch them. So I will watch this just because I'm a fan of the boxing and I just want to see how fighters look. But I don't agree with the card. I think it's too soft of a touch, if you will. And you got two main guys that need to be fighting each other. I mean, truth be told, Lamont Peterson got knocked out by Lucas Matisse. And if they didn't decide to have that fight at a 1 pound catch weight, Lamont Peterson would have lost his belt that night to Lucas Matisse. But they did that 1 pound catch weight, and he got to keep his belt. So why can't Danny Garcia fight him? I mean, this is a guy who's been beaten before. He had a draw with Victor Ortiz, got knocked down. Lamont Peterson got knocked down by Amir Khan. He got knocked out by Lucas Matisse, but he was able to keep his belt because the fight took place at a catch weight. Why can't Danny Garcia, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're the lineal champ. Why can't you fight him? Just fight him, you know what I mean? Or any of the other guys I listed. So stop with the bullshit excuses. This is no hatred for Danny Garcia. Then some other people are saying, oh, Danny Garcia doesn't control it. I mean, I don't think he has the same level of clout as a Mayweather or Pacquiao in terms of he can just dictate, or he has 100% jurisdiction over who he fights. I'm sure his team, his management, his dad, Al Heyman, they get together. But he has to have some level of say. They can't just put him, like, if they can't just put him in there with a number 77 ranked guy with 3 knockouts and be like, this is your only option. I'm not giving you any other fights but Rod Salka. I just don't believe that. I feel like at some point in the process and the negotiating, he could voice his opinion if he was anti it. So I don't want to hear that excuse either, that Danny Garcia, he simply is just doing what he's being instructed. Al Heyman just selected someone for him, and he has absolutely no word. He can't voice his opinion. I mean, me personally, I feel like I'd be more on the, as a fighter, I feel like I'd be more on the Sergio Martinez tip. Like, I'm a warrior. I'm the lineal champ. You can't give me this bullshit of a fight and expect me to sell this to fans near my home. He's from Philly, the Barclays in New York, and obviously that's not that far of a drive for Philly fans to go to Barclays. So I would demand my team go back to the drawing board, give me some other opponents, some other options so I could showcase my ability. And that's real talk. Let me know what you guys think. I know I made this video kind of long. I'm kind of annoyed, that's why, because I think it's a bullshit fight, garbage card. Make sure you like the video. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video is Ego, signing off.